For the second skill in this unit, we're going to look at comparing ratio and proportion. So they're very similar, and it's important not to get confused between the two. In ratio, you've got two parts, so what person A gets and what person B gets. For proportion, you've got what person A gets out of the total amount available, and that's either expressed as a fraction, or it can also be expressed or as a percentage. So we're going to take a look at this first example. So you've got 3/5 of visitors to the zoo are adults. So let's just draw a picture to help us. So here is a bar which I'm going to divide up into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I've got 3 of those fifths are adults. So here, those first 3 out of the total are adults. So the first question asks me, what proportion are kids? Well, all of those visitors who aren't adults are kids, so I can put a K in the remaining 2 boxes. And it's a proportion, so it wants to know how many out of the total are kids. Well, I've got 2 kids boxes out of 5 in total, so the proportion that are kids are 2 out of my 5. It then asks me, what's the ratio of kids to adults? Well, I've got 2 kids and I've got 1, 2, 3 adults. So the ratio is 2 to 3. Notice that if I added my 2 and 3 together, it would give me my 5, because that's the total amount of parts. Slightly different question. For every 21 kids tickets, 54 adult tickets are sold. So it wants to know, what's the ratio of kids to adults? Well, the ratio there is 21 to 54. Now, this question is going to need us to give that in its simplest form. So I've got 21 and 54. Now, 2 doesn't go into both of them, but 3 does. So I'm going to divide both by 3. 3 goes into 21 7 times. 3 goes into 54 18 times. So that tells me that for every 7 kids, 18 adults go to the zoo. Now, the question asks me, what percentage are adult tickets? Well, a percentage is taking me back to my proportion. It wants to know the adult tickets out of all of the tickets. Well, the number of adult tickets is 18. Out of the total, 7 plus 18 is 25. So 18 out of 25, that's my proportion. It's not given as a percentage. I need to change that to a percentage. Now, if we remember back to fractions, decimals and percentages, there's 2 ways of doing this. I can either try and divide 18 by 25, or I can try and change that into 100. Well, if I change that to 100, I'm multiplying by 4. So times by 4 there. I would need to times by 4 on the numerator as well. 18 times 4, double 18 is 36, double it again is 72, gives me 72 out of 100, which is 72%. And we're expected to be able to convert really fluently between ratios and proportions as fractions and proportions as percentages. Just pause the video now while you write down the worked example, and then we can start on some questions. Okay, so here are 4 questions for you to try. For the first one, you've just been given a simple ratio and you're changing that into a proportion as a fraction. For the second, you've got a simple ratio, you need to change it to a proportion but give it as a percentage, both of squash and a percentage of water. For the third one, you're given a percentage, you need to change that to a ratio, and the same for the last one, you need to change that to a ratio. Pause the video now, have a go at the questions. When you're ready, unpause and we can have a look through answers together. Okay, so let's have a look at the solutions. For the first one, I've got 3 apples in total. 1 is red, gives me 1 out of 3. 2 are green, gives me 2 out of 3. For the second question, it's a proportion, so I want to know the total. The total part, 3 plus 17 gives me 20. So 3 out of 20 is squash. I times both by 5 to give me a denominator of 100. gives me 15 out of 100, which is 15% squash. I could do the same and do 17 out of 20, or I could just take this away from 100%. Taking away from 100% is easier because the remainder must be water, so it's 15% squash and 85% water. If I've got 60% children, 40% adults, divide both by 20, gives me a ratio of 3 to 2. And the last one, women to men. Notice women first, so the remainder was 55%. 55 to 45, divide both of them by 5, gives me a ratio of 11 to 9. Give yourself a mark, please, out of 6. Any difficulty on that, please look at the Hegarty chapter on ratio and proportion. Well done.